You said this week you'll do everything to stop any kind of military takeover of Greenland. Do you actually think he would use military force, or are we overreacting to that?
So I think there'll be enough pressure to stop it. But the problem is they keep rattling the saber. They keep saying, we're going to do this. We keep this in our armamentarium that we will, reserve the right to invade Greenland.
Lindsey Graham just had complete meltdown on live television, and it's absolutely wild. Trump is threatening to destroy the Senate, not metaphorically, actually threatening to end congressional power over war, to bypass Constitution, to make himself sole authority on military action. And Lindsey is losing his mind, not because he opposes Trump, but because he's trying to defend Trump's authoritarianism while his own Republican colleagues are revolting. 5 Republican senators just voted to restrict Trump's war powers, and Trump posted that they should never hold office again, threatened his own party members, his own senators, people he needs to govern. And Lindsey went on television screaming about how War Powers Act is unconstitutional, how Congress can't be 535 commanders-in-chief, how restricting Trump is emboldening enemies. He was shaking, voice cracking, absolutely spiraling, because Trump's threats have put Lindsey in an impossible position, and he chose to defend Trump, and embarrassed himself on national television doing it. But real quick, before we get into this, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built John Brown's show, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, please subscribe, because you might think you are but aren't. Your subscription actually matters here. Alright, let's get into what actually happened. Republican Senator Rand Paul went on television and said something reasonable for once. Said Trump's Greenland threats are terrible diplomacy. Said you don't convince people to sell you territory by threatening to invade them with Marines. Said there's nobody in Washington on either side who supports military invasion of NATO ally, and he's right. Trump's Greenland obsession is insane, threatening Denmark, our ally, NATO member. Over what? Over Trump wanting real estate. Over him looking at map and deciding he wants big land mass. Share this video with everyone you know, because Paul said you don't get people to sell you Greenland by angering and denigrating the people who live there, by saying we're going to march Marines in and take it if you don't sell. It doesn't make them willing sellers. If your goal is rattle saber and then they'll sell, it's having opposite effect. You'd be hard-pressed to find someone in Greenland for it. You'd be hard-pressed to find somebody in Washington who's for military invasion on either side of aisle. So there'll be enough pressure to stop it. But problem is they keep rattling saber. They keep saying we're going to do this. We reserve right to invade Greenland. And Paul said that's why War Powers Act debate is so important. Because it's not just about Venezuela. It's about Venezuela. It's about Greenland. It's about Colombia. It's about Cuba. It's about whether or not people get say in whether we go to war. That's what this is about. Whether president can unilaterally start wars, or whether Congress has constitutional role. Founders gave Congress power to declare war for reason, to prevent presidents from becoming kings, from starting wars on whim, from committing troops without public debate. And Trump is trying to destroy that safeguard. Think about what that means. Trump posted on Truth Social that Republicans should be ashamed of senators that just voted with Democrats in an attempt to take away powers to fight and defend United States of America. Listed their names: Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Rand Paul, Josh Hawley, Todd Young, said they should never hold office again. That's president threatening his own party, his own senators, people who confirmed his judges, people who passed his legislation. He's burning bridges with everyone because he's desperate, because he knows his authority is crumbling. And J.D. Vance backed him up, said every president, Democrat or Republican, believes War Powers Act is fundamentally fake and unconstitutional law. Said it's not going to change anything about how we conduct foreign policy over next couple weeks, next couple months. That will continue to be how we approach things. That's vice president saying they'll ignore congressional restrictions, ignore Constitution, do whatever they want regardless of what Senate votes. That's authoritarianism. That's exactly what War Powers Act was designed to prevent. And Lindsey Graham is defending it. Make sure you're subscribed, because Lindsey went on TV and completely melted down. Said War Powers Act was passed in 1973 by a bunch of liberal Democrats. It's power grab by Congress against Commander-in-Chief. Every president since 1973 has rejected idea that Congress can substitute our judgment for theirs. So what these 5 good friends are doing, they're creating a situation where you have 535 commanders-in-chief, not one. There's never been court case in history of country where military operation was terminated by Supreme Court because Congress didn't approve. There have been 130 military operations by Commander-in-Chief without congressional approval. So here's my point, Lindsey said. You're creating disaster for country. If member of Congress doesn't like what president's doing as Commander-in-Chief militarily, cut off funding for that operation. We have power of purse, you can do that. If you think president doing something illegally, you can impeach him. But we can't have situation where Congress becomes commander-in-chief. That would be disaster. This is unconstitutional power grab. To my colleagues, you're doing a lot of damage. You're emboldening our enemies. You're restricting President Trump unconstitutionally, doing a lot of damage. Stop it. And then Lindsey said one last thing. I've been military lawyer for 33 years. I was judge advocate in Air Force. I was prosecutor, defense attorney, military judge. I feel comfortable talking about this. What you're doing is wrong. He was shaking. Voice got higher. Started yelling at his own colleagues, completely losing it, because Lindsey knows he's wrong. Knows War Powers Act exists for good reason. Vietnam. That's why it passed. After decades of presidents sending troops into disasters without congressional approval, after tens of thousands of young Americans died in pointless war, Congress said enough, said president needs approval for military action. And they were right, but Lindsey dismisses that as bunch of liberal Democrats in 1970s. Like context doesn't matter, like Vietnam didn't happen, like we shouldn't learn from history of pointless, endless wars. What could have possibly been happening in 70s? How many tens of thousands of young men did we send to die? Was there war? Yeah, Lindsey, it's after Vietnam. Maybe we should look back at history of pointless, endless, nonsensical, illegitimate war and say maybe we shouldn't allow president to dictate foreign policy and get people killed. Share this with everyone because... And then Lindsey posted even crazier threat on Twitter. Said my advice to commies running Cuba and oppressing its people, call Maduro and ask him what to do if you can get through. If I were you, I'd be looking for a new place to live. That's US Senator threatening Cuba with regime change, threatening invasion on behalf of president who already illegally invaded Venezuela, who's threatening Greenland, who's planning military action across hemisphere, and Lindsey is egging him on, is threatening more wars, more invasions, more chaos. The irony is staggering. Lindsey tells Cuba to stop oppressing people, while defending Trump who sends ICE agents door to door, who rips families apart, who shot Renee Nicole Mellon good in face, who murders American citizens in streets. But Lindsey says Cuba is oppressive, and solution is Trump bypassing Congress and Constitution and international law to invade them. Stop being dictator or Trump will be more of dictator. That's Lindsey's argument. It's insane. It's incoherent. And Lindsey knows he looks ridiculous. That's why he was shaking on TV, why voice was cracking, why he was yelling at colleagues. Remember when Trump needed Lindsey's vote on his big ugly bill? They were golfing and Trump said, "Hey Lindsey, how about you go pick out something from Pro Shop at Trump Golf Course?" That's what got him. Really, something from Pro Shop. This is same Lindsey Graham who whenever he's with Trump is booed mercilessly by MAGA crowds. People hate you, Lindsey. You're not like Great Beaches of South Carolina. People do not like Lindsey Graham. And he is advocating to lose power in governing to give it to Donald Trump because Trump will give him hat and attaboy. That is so pathetic. But that's who these people are. They are pathetic and they are war-crazed and they want to waste your tax dollars. Lindsey is unstable. That much like every other war-crazed Republican, Lindsey Graham is angry and vengeful and so small and insecure that only way he can feel comfortable with himself is through military-industrial complex. And that's why he broke down today on television. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Lindsey's argument is completely wrong on law. War Powers Act is constitutional, passed with overwhelming bipartisan support in 1973, overrode Nixon's veto, established clear framework for presidential war powers. President can defend against attacks, can respond to emergencies, but needs congressional authorization for sustained military operations. That's not liberal power grab. That's Constitution working as designed. Article 1 gives Congress power to declare war. Article 2 makes President Commander-in-Chief. War Powers Act balances those roles. And Lindsey says 130 military operations happened without congressional approval, but most were small, short duration. Defensive operations, not full invasions, not regime changes, not occupations. What Trump did in Venezuela, what he's threatening in Greenland, those are different. Those are major military operations. Those require congressional authorization. And Lindsey knows it, but he's lying, twisting facts, making false equivalencies, because he's defending Trump rather than Constitution. Think about what that means. And Lindsey's claim that Congress can cut funding if they oppose military operation is nonsense. By time Congress debates and votes on funding, troops are already deployed, Americans already in danger, operation already underway. That's not effective check on presidential power. That's putting Congress in impossible position. Either fund troops already fighting or abandon them. War Powers Act prevents that. Requires approval before troops deploy, before operation starts, before Americans are in danger. That's smart. That's constitutional. That's what founders intended. But Lindsey wants to destroy it. Wants Trump to have unlimited war powers. And why? Because Lindsey is war-crazed individual, lives for military conflict, gets excited about invasions, talks about regime change like it's sport. He's empty person who finds meaning in violence, in sending other people's children to die, while he sits safely in Senate, while he goes golfing with Trump, while he picks out hats from Pro Shop. Other people fight wars, other people die, and Lindsey cheers it on. Even Tucker Carlson noticed pattern. Asked one of his guests, hey, don't you notice there's this trend of closeted gay Republican war-crazed maniac senators? His guest was like, what are you talking about? Lindsey Graham, Tim Scott down in South Carolina, closeted Republican senators who are obsessed with war, who compensate for personal insecurity with militarism, and Lindsey fits perfectly. He's walking cliche, desperate for approval, desperate to prove something, desperate to feel powerful. So he advocates for wars, threatens countries, attacks colleagues who want peace. Share this video because South Carolina voters deserve better. They deserve senator who works for them, who doesn't waste tax dollars on pointless wars, who doesn't embarrass them on television, who doesn't grovel for Trump's approval. But they have Lindsey. They have senator who will say anything, do anything, defend anything, just to stay near power, just to feel relevant, just to get invitation to golf at Trump course. Now let's talk about what Trump's threats mean for Senate. Because this isn't just about Lindsey embarrassing himself. This is about President trying to end congressional authority, trying to claim unlimited powers, and using threats to intimidate senators into submission. Trump posted that 5 Republican senators should never hold office again. That's direct threat. That's President saying, I'll primary you, I'll campaign against you, I'll destroy your career, if you oppose me, if you vote your conscience, if you follow Constitution. And that's authoritarianism. That's how dictators operate. Threaten anyone who opposes, demand absolute loyalty, punish dissent. And some senators are standing up to it, are saying no, are voting to restrict presidential power anyway. That's courage, that's constitutional duty, that's what senators should do. But Lindsey is doing opposite, is attacking those senators, is defending Trump's threats, is trying to destroy congressional authority from inside. If Lindsey succeeds, if War Powers Act is ignored or repealed, if Trump gets unlimited war authority, what happens? Trump invades Greenland, starts war with NATO, destroys Western alliance, Trump invades Cuba, starts war in Caribbean, destabilizes hemisphere, Trump invades whoever he wants whenever he wants, and Congress can't stop him. Constitution doesn't matter, checks and balances don't exist, just president as emperor starting wars on whim. That's what Lindsey is defending. That's what he melted down on television trying to justify, and it's not working. 5 Republican senators already oppose Trump. More are speaking out privately. More are questioning his judgment. More are realizing that defending authoritarianism destroys their own power, destroys their institution, destroys their constitutional role. And they're not willing to do that. Not willing to end Senate just to please Trump. Lindsey is. Lindsey will give up everything. All congressional authority, all institutional power, all constitutional role, just to stay in Trump's good graces, just to keep golfing with him, just to keep getting attention. And it's exactly why Lindsey gets booed at Trump rallies, why MAGA base hates him, why nobody respects him. Because he has no principles, no spine, no dignity, just desperate need for approval that makes him attack colleagues and defend authoritarianism. Bottom line is this: Trump threatened to end Senate's war powers, posted that 5 Republican senators should never hold office again for voting to restrict him. Lindsey Graham collapsed on television trying to defend Trump, said War Powers Act is unconstitutional, said restricting Trump emboldens enemies, said colleagues are doing a lot of damage, was shaking, voice cracking, completely melting down, because he knows he's wrong, knows he's defending indefensible, but does it anyway. Then Lindsey threatened Cuba on Twitter, said they should call Maduro if they can get through, said they should find new place to live. That's senator threatening regime change, threatening invasion, on behalf of authoritarian president, while calling other countries oppressive, while defending president who runs police state. It's insane. It's hypocritical. It's exactly who Lindsey is. Rand Paul was right. Nobody in Washington supports invading Greenland. Nobody wants war with NATO. Nobody thinks president should have unlimited war powers, except Trump and Lindsey and J.D. Vance. 3 people trying to destroy constitutional system, trying to end congressional authority, trying to make president emperor. And Senate is pushing back. 5 Republicans joined Democrats to restrict Trump. More will follow, because even Republicans see where this is heading. Authoritarianism, dictatorship, endless wars. Lindsey can melt down on television, can threaten other countries, can attack his colleagues, but he's losing. War powers resolution passed. Trump's authority is restricted, Senate is reclaiming power, and Lindsey is left embarrassing himself. Defending authoritarianism nobody wants, attacking colleagues who are right. All for Trump's approval, all for invitation to golf. All because he's empty, pathetic person who finds meaning in Trump's attention. South Carolina deserves better. America deserves better. Senate deserves better. And Lindsey knows it. That's why he was shaking on television, why voice was cracking, why he was yelling at colleagues, because deep down, he knows he's wrong, knows he's defending dictatorship, knows he's destroying institution he claims to serve, but he does it anyway, because that's who Lindsey is. War maniac, empty shell of person desperate for approval. This story continues. Stay tuned.